What's going on, everyone? Ran across this interesting story. It's I'm on the Daily Wire, but apparently the story comes from Reuters, and it's Reuters admits they sat on a bombshell Beto O'Rourke story for 2 years. Uh, Reuters reported late on Friday night that the reporter who had broke the story about Democrat Beto O'Rourke belonging to a hacker group had the story for 2 years and agreed to sit on it until after O'Rourke's Senate race against Senator Ted Cruz. We all remember that. The report published early on Friday documented O'Rourke's involvement in a hacker group named Cult of the Dead Cow and included multiple past writings from O'Rourke, some of which were described as disturbing. Now, just for disclosure, when he was writing these things, these little entries and whatnot, he was a kid. He was like a 15, 16-year-old kid. So you got to put that into this too. We can't say, oh, he was a grown man saying this stuff because he wasn't. He was a kid. After more than a year of reporting, Joseph Min persuaded O'Rourke to talk on the record, Reuters reported. In an interview in late 2017, O'Rourke acknowledged that he was a member of the group on understanding that the information would not be made public until after his Senate race against Ted Cruz in November 2018. Min said that he learned about O'Rourke's involvement in the group after he decided to write about the hacking group, which he called the most interesting and influential hacking group in history. While I was looking into the cult of the dead cow, I found out that they had a member who was sitting in Congress. I didn't know which one, Min said, and then I figured out which one it was. That shouldn't have been too hard. And the members of the group wouldn't talk to me about who it was. They wouldn't confirm that it was this person unless I promised that I wouldn't write about it until after the November election. Min says that he approached O'Rourke for an interview about the book and told O'Rourke that the book was going to be published after November and your Senate race is over, and that O'Rourke agreed to give the interview. Some of O'Rourke's old writings were discovered on an old online discussion forum that he started called Tacoland. Tacoland, that sounds like a wonderful place. One particular piece of the writing was especially troubling as he describes mowing down children in a car. I'm not going to read this. I'll put a link in the description. I'm not going to read it just because it's jacked up and I have children, so I don't really care to read about stuff like that. Late on Friday, Yahoo also reported on more of O'Rourke's old writings. Archived versions of writings attributed to O'Rourke's alias Psychedelic Warlord include one that criticized some women as sluts, mocked them for having violent boyfriends, and suggested a way to deal with these women was to call them completely ugly or inform Nazi skins in your area that they had AIDS. So I mean that's clear child stuff. That's kid stuff. That's stupid. But the one thing about this article that I do not like, or one thing that it shows that we should all worry about, is how the left and the media work together all the time. If the shoe was on the other foot, say this was a conservative candidate running for any type of office, and a reporter has had this story just sitting in the wings for a while. Now, if it was a conservative, they would have blew that story out of the water immediately. They would have put it out there for everyone to see during the campaign to screw up his campaign choice. They're always looking for stuff like this. This is exactly what the media looks for all the time. They try to find those little hidden skeletons in people's closets. But considering it was a liberal person that it was going against, they're not going to say a word. And they didn't. it's just now coming out because the guy's writing a book about it. This guy's just, he wants to get paid. And now that Beto O'Rourke already lost, he can put it out there without it hurting him. Because, I mean, everyone knows Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis O'Rourke, is not going to be the president. So he's kind of a joke on the Democratic platform. There's a lot, I mean, most of the people running there this time around are jokes on the Democratic platform. The Democratic platform itself has become a joke. I mean, sure, it's all fine and well if you like identity politics and gender politics, uh, if you like to call people Nazis or you like to call them xenophobic for any particular thing, then the Democratic Party is your party. But if you're a normal person who likes to live their life day by day, happy, go lucky, go to work, come home, spend time with your family, do the family thing or whatever, like a lot of conservatives do, then you're out back. But yeah, this story really shows how the media, as much as they love to say that they're not biased, it shows the clear bias because they had something that would have completely destroyed his campaign against Ted Cruz, but they didn't put it out there because they didn't want to hurt his chances of beating a conservative. The left wing media controls a lot more than you think. They control what you hear. That's why I and a lot of other alternative media pundits, we like to get the information out to you, and we don't hide anything. I know there's a lot of stories I could talk about during the week, and I just choose not to because I just don't feel like talking about them or something like that. Or I'll notice that every pundit on alternative media or whatever is talking about that specific story, so I feel maybe I don't have to. I think with all these other influx of opinions, I'm sure my opinion's gonna be somewhere in their opinions generally. But I'm a lot different than most of the pundits that I watch, just because that seems to be the best way to get real, true, good information. You have to watch stuff you don't fully agree with all the time. If you just constantly surround yourself with stuff you agree with all the time, then you pull a left move. You stay in your tribe. You stay in your little community. You only hear what you want to hear. You only hear what agrees with you. That's when you get negative thinking going on. That's when everything starts to fall apart. But yeah, interesting story. Interesting story. And if the shoe was on the other foot and it was a conservative or a Republican, they would have been screwed from day one. That information would have came out day one. But because this was a leftist in O'Rourke, they kept it under the rug for over 2 years. Just shows don't trust the media. They're not worthy of your trust. Always second guess. Always second guess and never capitulate to the first thing you hear. Just don't do it. But as always, like, share, and subscribe. I got more videos coming out. I'm gonna get to cranking on these things and see if we can't bring y'all some good material. But like I said, as always, like, share, subscribe. I'll catch you on the flip side.